How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the old ways. We are back with a Mr. Nightmare reaction video. Now, we have some problems with the setup here, alright? It's not as easy at my old place, at my parents' house, as I should say now. It wasn't even a clean setup there, to be honest with you. I just had my camera sitting on top of old Wii games and I had my bureau there, everything. It just helped with the height difference and everything like that. Until I get a tripod, something to set up with, some different scenario that we can run with, this is gonna, I guess, do for the time being. And until I get my charging port cleaned out on my phone, I can't really do any type of reaction with headphones on. So the audio might be a little bit shaky in this video. It's going to be something you're going to have to bear with just for this video. But we are back. Mr. Nightmare 3 True Scary Field Trip Horror Stories Volume 3. Now, I would say the scariest on this channel. Halloween, obviously. The Halloween ones, I'm sad I missed out on those. I should have stuck around. The Halloween horror stories, field trips, and Home Alone / sleepover horror stories are usually the scariest on his channel. So when I seen this, I was like, sweet, I have some time before I gotta go clock in, so might as well jump on into a reaction, go back to my old ways. Mr. Nightmare, it's been a minute. So before we jump into this, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. We're going to be trying to come back with as many videos as we possibly can. And over on the gaming channel, I stream over there. That's mainly what I do. I stream COD, that's pretty much it. Rebirth, zombies, anything you have to suggest, maybe I'll give it a shot. But yeah, 3 True Scary Field Trip Horror Stories Volume 3. Let's jump on into the reaction.
That I don't even remember.
Oh shit.
All I remember is we were in teams of
starting
2.
right off the rip. Alright, here we go. I don't want to make this too loud for you, so my phone and my camera kind of set up right next to each other. But
we took a field trip in middle school to a salt marsh in our town. It was
Exciting.
for our science class to study marine life or something like that. I don't even remember.
Yeah, because it
All I
sounds
remember
fucking
is
boring.
we were in teams of 2, and our assignment was to take notes of certain things we could see through our binoculars. I was paired with my best friend Jordan. He and I were lagging behind the group because we wanted to sneak off and do our own thing.
Bro, I'm fucking
So when our
lagging,
teacher, Miss
dude.
Stern,
This field
and the
trip
2
sucks.
other teachers on the trip with us were far enough away, we turned around on the path and went a different way. The whole salt marsh was just a large maze of wooden walkways built over the swampy waters. The trip was so mind-numbingly boring to us at our young age that we couldn't stand the assignment anymore. We went off to
Makes
explore
sense.
down the alternate walkway that we weren't
That's like
supposed
my
to go
whole
down.
school
It had a
life
big
right
sign
there.
posted up saying something like, "Don't go down this way unless you work for the town." So guess what we did? Of course we went down this way. There was a lot of super tall
stupid
grass
idiot.
out
They
there,
deserve
so
to get
we were
raped.
well
That's
hidden
just what I'm
from the
gonna
teachers
say.
or the rest of the students. We walked for a while till we passed this little shed-sized building that said "Do not enter" on the door.
What do we do?
We tried the door handle, but it was locked.
What the
So
fuck?
we proceeded
People
onward.
deserve.
The more
I
we
haven't
walked,
watched
the
Mr.
more
Nightmare in a
turns we
while,
made,
but people are
and
still
while we
stupid as
realized
before.
This place was absolutely ginormous and a literal maze. There came a time where we agreed it was time to head back to the group because we weren't having much more fun ourselves than we would be with the group.
And then they can't
Plus, it
find
was
the
getting
group.
late and we'd been gone for a while, and we didn't want to get caught. So we started going back in what we thought was the right direction. But after apparently wrong turn after wrong turn, we admitted to each other that we were lost. Any sense of direction now was completely gone, and the sun was clearly...
And that's why these kids deserve to get butt fucked. Because you're already in an abandoned area you know nothing about. The field trip, I get it, it's boring enough. But now they ignored 2 signs. Alright? Signs are like red flags in places like these. If they say don't do it, just don't do it. Yeah, I was bored as hell out of my mind too. I made my own fun. You know, have conversations with people. Speak to friends in your head. I don't know. You have your best friend there. You can find some sort of light out of it. You don't gotta go walking out and trying to be like, hey, anyone in here to rape us? You know, it's just a lot more simple just to do your own thing, man.
starting to go down. Panic didn't set in just yet, but we were definitely worried. Time dragged on, and we couldn't find the damn path back to where we came from. We tried finding that little building that we had just passed as a sign that we were going in the right direction, but we couldn't. The tall, swampy marsh grass was taller than us and blocked sight of everything. The sun was now setting, and there was no way our class and teachers were still here. This was before cell phones were a big thing, let alone among middle schoolers. We had no way of calling for help, but we refrained from screaming until the sun was practically all the way down and panic now started to set in. Suddenly it seemed we weren't alone.
You know what I would have done in that situation? At that moment, in that situation, that point in life, you're already screwed. You know, now it's just a matter of life or death. Is a swamp creature going to kill you? You know, a murderer? Or, you know, like I said before, are you going to get raped? And you might deserve it, yes, but you don't want to see a kid go through that sort of traumatic experience. So, what you do in that situation, you find a decent little camping spot you can hide out at, and you just sit the fuck down. As soon as the sun started to come down, you'd be like, come on, man, we go this way, maybe we can find our way back to the group. Dude, the sun is setting, group's gone. I don't even know what time it is. I don't have a cell phone. What are cell phones? I don't know. It's 1993. But still, I don't know. I don't know what time it is, but I can tell you one thing. When the sun's setting, I know what season it is. It's not winter, so it's not supposed to be down by 5 o'clock. Even if it is, sun's going down. Everyone's fucking home, man. We're screwed. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit here and not keep getting myself lost in the swirl of maze. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait. Because eventually someone's going to notice I'm missing, right? Hopefully.
Jordan and I started to hear the splashing of water nearby. Exactly the sound of someone walking through the probably knee-high water. We started to walk faster down the wooden pathway. And when we stopped again to listen, the splashing was still there, getting louder and closer.
Your teacher.
Flashlights.
Fuck you. Come on, let's go. Jesus, holding us up.
We knew we weren't alone. Something or someone was in the tall grass, hiding, somehow watching us. Jordan basically had a fuck it moment and went to the grass where the splashing was coming from, pushed a bunch of the giant pieces to the side, and then screamed like a little girl. I didn't see what he saw, but I didn't need to. I ran right behind him down the pathway.
You had a fucking moment, then a come to Jesus moment, where you're like, why did I have that
person
fucking
hiding in the grass? Though I already figured that before he even told me.
person?
We kept running and then stopping to catch our breaths until the sound of a helicopter overhead came closer. We saw it, flying over with a searchlight on. We started waving our hands in the air. Whether that helped or not, I don't know. But eventually the spotlight landed on us and stayed there. We expected the helicopter to lower and pick us up because we were idiot little kids. So when it just hovered there, we were confused. But what they were doing was showing where we were to the police search team that came looking for us after our parents reported to the school that we never came home.
How strong do you think propellers on a fucking helicopter are just going to cut down trees and swamp and grass beside you? Jesus.
Of course. Apparently Miss Stern either miscounted on the bus back to school or she simply didn't do a head count at all. And the buses left without us.
Jesus.
Either way, she messed up big time, and I'm surprised she wasn't fired.
She wasn't.
This was easily hands down the scariest night of my life.
That's as much as her problem as it is
so
yours. She shouldn't even have left until she knew everyone was there. That's like number one. They even do that for fire drills. That's like the number one what you do. How do you fuck that up?
In senior year of high school, we took an end-of-year field trip to Boston.
If you miss
for
one
our US
kid,
history
maybe,
class.
but two?
Part of our
You fuck
assignment
up that
was following
bad?
the Freedom Trail and viewing historical sites like the Bunker Hill Monument. There were, of course, some teachers and volunteer chaperones on the trip, but between me and my two friends, Sean and Matt, we were all 18, so we easily convinced one of the more chill teachers to just let us go off and do our own thing. So we strayed off into the city and just messed around having fun checking out the place. We checked out Boston Harbor, where we got food at some waterfront restaurant. Then we checked out the Quincy Market and some other historical landmarks. And then finally we ended up at this little cemetery called the Granary Burying Ground. This is where the horror to this story began. There were, of course, a few other people in this little cemetery besides the three of us. We weren't exactly that interested in it. We were just walking through it because it was basically one of the major things on the checklist of places that we were supposed to see. Anyway, there was this one guy who caught my attention. He was wearing this old-looking trench coat and a small top hat. It was definitely too warm out to be wearing a trench coat, I know that. He had a gray mustache too, but that's about all I really remember of his appearance.
Monopoly Man?
The reason I picked up on him was because he was looking right at me, just standing still. He wasn't walking along looking at the gravestones like everyone else. I said to my friends in a slight murmur, "Why is this guy looking at me?" as I walked past them, making sure they followed me out of there. As we got back to the street, I told them more loudly that I was being eyed down by some weird-looking old dude. Neither of them took notice, but I didn't want to go back to point the guy out. So
Just
we
make
kept
sure
walking.
he's actually looking at you.
We were
Just
supposed to
kinda
meet
like do
everyone
the
on the
shit.
trip at the Quincy Market at 5, so we started making our way back there. A few minutes into our walk, I turned around for whatever reason to look behind me, and there he was again. That old man in the top hat not too far behind me. I noticed him through the crowd. He had on his same neutral, almost unhappy-looking face, his gray mustache covering most of his lips. And yes, it seemed like he was looking at me again. He wasn't even moving. I turned back to face forward and didn't see anything.
It's a
If it
ghost.
happened
Bet
again,
money.
I'd know something
First
was
seen
up.
at the cemetery?
It did.
Ghost.
At the Quincy Market, when we were about to meet with the rest of the group, I saw that man again, far away by a street corner, facing me. He almost blended in with the crowd if it weren't for his top hat. I ran up to Sean and Matt and pressed their shoulders to get them to turn around and look. I pointed at the corner that the man was at not even 10 seconds earlier, and he was gone. I told them that
Sounds
creepy
like he's
old dude
Monopoly
that I
Man
mentioned
to
for
me,
the burial
man. I don't
grounds
know.
to be following us and kept looking at us.
You found the real life
Me
Monopoly Man.
specifically.
Congratulations.
I have zero clue where he could have went that quickly, though. It didn't make sense. That night at the hotel, I was having a nightmare in which I was in my bedroom back at home, and I was hiding under my bed, and I could see feet coming closer to the bed until they stopped at the foot of the bed. And then the man in the top hat looked under the bed at me with his neutral blank expression on his face. I woke up only moments later to a loud thump in the hotel room. I had no idea what it was. I woke up Matt and Sean and the third guy who was in our hotel room, asking if any of them heard that. No one did but me. I
Wake
still
up
have
the
no clue what
third guy in our hotel room. Doesn't even know who he is. Just, Matt, Sean, top hat guy. Did you hear that? That's the type of situation to be on like fucking Key and Peele or something. That'd be hilarious.
Years later, I was going through old photo albums with my grandparents around Christmas time, and I stopped on one page where there was a very familiar looking man in one of them. He was wearing a very similar, if not the exact same type of top hat as the man in Boston all those years ago. He also had the same gray mustache and neutral expression on his face.
It's gonna be like
I asked my grandparents who it was.
relative or
They
something.
told me he was my grandma's father. Now, I'm not saying I saw my grandma's dead dad that day in Boston, but the resemblance was so uncanny that I'm almost positive my mind was playing tricks on me. That whole series of events still freaks me out to
I
this
do it.
day.
Paranormal ones are so good. I love that type of stuff. You first found him in a cemetery? Makes sense. Alright, that makes a shit ton of sense. I immediately called that shit
This
out.
takes place back in November of 2013. I was in the 9th grade, and I went on a field trip with my Boy Scout troop to Alcatraz Island. For those of you who don't know, Alcatraz Island is a famous prison in the middle of the San Francisco Bay. We had the opportunity to sleep on the island in the prison cells.
Oh, yay!
My friends from the troop and I had elected to go, seeing as this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We arrived on the ferry around 2 p.m. or so. Our tour guide was telling us about the history of the island and how there were a couple of men who once managed to escape and tried to swim away, but they were never found. The common belief is that they drowned, which is very likely because
That's the
not
point
only
of
is
having
it
it
a
on
fun
the
swim,
island, isn't
but
it?
San Francisco's very windy and the water from the bay is
Ooh, Alcatraz, we get to stay the
Hypothermia
night.
is
Look!
also a likely cause of
There's
death.
a raid.
As the tour went along, my friends and I were joking around about how this place was haunted. To make things even more thrilling, our tour guide decided to wait until midnight to take us to the execution area in the hospital. My friends
Bro,
Ash
you were in
and
the
Steven
ninth
kept trying to
grade.
scare
They
each
need
other
to
every opportunity
chill.
we got. Like I hid behind one of the dark corners and popped out when Steve was approaching. Eventually, we made our way to the execution room. Ash and I immediately picked up on how bad it smelled, but nobody else could smell anything, and the guide had said that the execution room hadn't been used in at least 100 years. Keep in mind that Alcatraz has been decommissioned since the 1960s. Plus, the bodies are taken away after execution, so the smell would only make sense if there were rotting corpses. Sure, there were some bloodstains, but they were like 100 plus years old. Ash noted that it was weird that no one else could
Bloodstains
smell
is
where
the
we had
biggest
smelled.
stain you can't
And I
get
joked
rid of.
around saying
Bleach can't
maybe some
even do that
spirit is
shit.
trying to freak us out or something. We went to the hospital next, and I could have sworn I heard some sort of whispering. Ash and I immediately looked at each other as we heard the sounds, and the lights started to flicker at the same time. The guy told us that the lights always flickered, and then he started to explain how the mentally insane would usually come to the hospital and how there was once this crazy inmate who always would whisper when he spoke. It kind of paralleled us hearing those weird whispering sounds. Later on, a bunch of us played cards in the scout.
Bro, you guys
cabin
haven't even
cell. It
slept
was
yet,
definitely
and they're
quite
trying to
the experience play
traumatize you
cards in a
before you
prison
sleep.
cell,
I
must
swear to
say.
God.
It was around 3 a.m. when
They're
Ash
like
asked me to go
14.
with him to
Chill.
the bathroom.
They need to chill the fuck
I
out.
agreed, so we made our way over there. I had finished before him, so I waited outside while Ash was finishing up. I had been waiting for him for a while, pacing back and forth, so I decided to go back into the bathroom and check on him. I could hear the sink running, accompanied by the paper towel dispenser. Ash, are you almost done? I asked. The moment I said that, the sink shut off, and I heard a slam from one of the stall doors closing. Ash, I called out. No response.
Pikachu?
My heart froze when the most disturbing sounding cackle I had ever heard in my life came from the stall that had just previously shut. I turned around to make a run for the outside of
That
the
doesn't
bathroom.
sound like a good sound
I
effect.
screamed for Ash,
Listen,
yelling,
man,
"This
you
isn't
usually
funny."
do better with the
And
sound
he replied
effects
from
and
the other
stuff.
side of the door, "What are you talking about, dude?" He opened the door, but I didn't stay inside of there. I went back outside and told him what just happened. His jaw dropped, and he had the most worried look in his eyes. Then he asked me, "If you were in here this whole time, then what was that breathing I heard outside?" We both realized
That's a good
that
one.
something was
That's a good
serious
one. That one
about it.
catches me a little off
We
guard.
sprinted out of the bathroom as fast as we could and made it back to the cells where everyone was asleep. We decided not to wake everyone and to just get some sleep. About an hour after falling asleep, I was awoken to the sensation of someone tapping my back. I scanned the room and saw nothing, but I knew I was not alone.
They gotta
I
get
saw
so
something black
precise
in
with
the
it.
corner of the cell. I let out a blood-curdling scream. My scoutmaster came over and asked me what the problem was.
What the fuck
I
happened?
didn't even know what to say. And what the problem was, black in the corner of the cell. I let out a blood-curdling scream. My
that's
scoutmaster came
racist.
over and asked me what the problem was. I didn't even know what to say. Needless to say, Alcatraz has a long history, and what my friend and I had experienced was nothing short of paranormal.
Makes sense. People still work at Alcatraz? If it's been like abandoned since the 60s, why the fuck would people still work there? Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, make sure you like, subscribe. Any suggestions, leave it in the comments down below. I will catch you in the next video in the next couple days, hopefully. And yeah, deuces.
Perfect.